everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple pillow sham. And this one has an envelope style closure in the back, so there's no zipper. And it also is quilted in the front and has a flange on the edges, 1.5 inch flange. So let me show you the fabric that I chose. This is from Joel Dewberry. It's called Atrium. And I think this one is called Monarch that I use for the front. And the back is a coordinating one called Needlepoint. And here's this 16-inch pillow form, just a kind of a cheapo one from Joann Fabric. And then the batting I used is a one-sided fusible from Pellon Thermolam, which you can iron into place and also quilt. So let's get started. So since the pillow form is 16 inches, that's what I'm going to use as my base measurement. Now I'm going to add 3 inches all the way around to account for the 1.5 inch flange on each side. So I need for the front a 19-inch square piece, and that's what I'm going to cut right here. It's already 19 inches in this direction, so all I've done is fold it in half, and I'm going to cut 19 inches in this direction. So I'm just going to cut off the selvage. Okay, so I've cut off the selvage, and if you look really closely, you can see there is a little bit of the selvage still showing, but that's okay because it's going to get taken up into the seam allowance. So I'm on 22, and it needs to be 19 inches square, so I'm going to come over here to the 3-inch mark. And if you want, go ahead and count just to make sure that you've got the correct measurement. Okay, so there's your front all ready to go. And now let's cut the back. It is in 2 pieces. So in one direction it has to be 19 inches. And in the other direction, I want it to be 14 inches. Each piece 14 inches. And the way I came up with that number is I took 19 inches divided by 2, which is 9.5, and I just rounded it up to 10, and then I added 4 inches so there's a nice overlap so your pillow form doesn't show. So I have a strip here that I've already cut, which is 14 inches in this direction, and it's folded over, so I have 2 pieces here. So I'm going to cut off the selvage, and then I'm going to cut it into 2 19-inch pieces because it's already 14 in this direction. So I'm going to line it up, hold firmly, and I did move a little, but that should be okay since it doesn't have to be perfect, since there can be a little bit of play in the size for the backing. So I just flipped it over, lined it up so I have room over here to cut it on my right hand side. So again, I want it to be 2 pieces of 19 inches, and it's on the 2, so I'm going to come over here to 21. Line it up. Okay, so now I have 2 pieces that are 14 by 19. Okay, so the next step is going to be to cut a piece of batting to attach to our front fabric. And again, that's 19 inches square, and I'm going to cut the batting 18.5 inches square, just so it doesn't go all the way to the edge, so it's easier for me to work with when I'm matching the front and the back fabrics. So I'll cut that and meet you back here. Okay, so I've placed my batting sticky side down on the wrong side of my front fabric. And now I'm going to fuse it together. So you do have to use a high heat, and steam is good. So I will keep fusing this together and I'll meet you back at the sewing machine. I have my front fabric with the batting fused, and I'm going to do a little bit of quilting, and to do that I'm going to mark the fabric with this disappearing ink pen. And here's the package, and just in case you're interested. And so the ink disappears with water. This one actually says water, air and water soluble. So I wanted to show you one thing I don't like about it is you just naturally want to put the cap on the end when you're using it and it won't stay on. So I don't like that. Otherwise, this is a pretty good pen. The one that I used on the first pillowcase did not work very well. It's this Mark Be Gone, and I think it's also a Dritz pen if I'm not mistaken. But it was really hard to get the marks off the fabric. It took a lot of tries with water, and maybe if I laundered it, which I haven't yet, it would have worked better, but just a little note on that. So now I'm going to just put a mark down the middle on each side, and then one mark on each side of that, 4 inches. So I'll do that and meet you at the sewing machine. Okay, so I have my lines drawn, and again I'm just going to do light quilting, straight line quilting, 3 lines in each direction. And I'm not going to bother to tie off on either end because the threads will get taken up in the seam allowance. Okay, so now we have our front piece quilted. That's what it looks like on the back. Now I'm going to lay my back pieces right sides together on top. So there'll be one here and one here, like so, and see they overlap. Now I have to hem each of the edges, this edge and this edge. And what I'm going to do is flip it about a 1/2 inch and press it, and then another 1/2 inch. And I can just finger press it right now. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you can measure it if you want it exact. So I'm just going to throw a pin in there to make sure that I'm pressing in the right direction, because one time I did press this way and I even sewed it and I had to take it all apart. So there's one piece, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Put a pin in it. Okay, so I've pressed the hem over once and then over twice, and I'm just going to sew right along the edge here, probably about 1/8 inch from the edge. Okay, so I've got my back pieces hemmed. So now I'm just going to place them right sides together with the front fabric. Just line it up the best that I can. And I'm just going to pin it in the corner. And the other corner. And then the second piece, again, right sides together with the front fabric. And it's going to overlap. You can see the overlap. And I will put a pin here just to keep it down. It's a little bulky, but that's okay. And again, line up the corners. This one. Keep that flat down. Okay, so now I will meet you back at the sewing machine. Okay, so I have my front and my back pinned. Now I'm ready to sew all around this each side, and I'm just using a regular presser foot to do that. So here we go. Okay, so I've sewn around the edges, and I'm just going to clip the corners, being careful not to, of course, clip your stitches. Just makes it less bulky when you're turning it and trying to poke out your corners. Okay, now I'm going to turn it right side out. And I've just smoothed it, especially where they overlap here. You really have to smooth it out. And I'm going to press it because I have to do has to be really flat because I'm going to sew the flange next. And I want a really nice area to sew. So I will keep pressing and then we'll go on with the flange. I'm going to make a 1.5 inch flange all the way around the pillowcase. So I'm going to mark each corner 1.5 inches in so I know where to turn when I'm sewing. So here's 1.5 inch this way, and then 1.5 inches that way. I'm just going to put a dot, and that'll be where I turn, and I'm going to do that on each corner. Okay, so here's my dot that I made 1.5 inches in from the corner. And I'm going to actually pull my thread up this time so the thread doesn't bunch up on the back. I like to use my tweezers to pull that bobbin thread. Just put it aside. And here's a 1.5 inch mark on the plate of my sewing machine. So I'm going to, the best I can, follow that. Okay, so now I'm going to bury the thread from the beginning of the sewing, and you can see the back is nice and neat. There's no bobbin threads bunched up back there, and I'm using a self-threading needle from Clover. And this is a little trick I learned from watching a video of Leah Day online. So I'm just going to make a knot. And I'm just going to place it, I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch from the bottom there. And then use the self-threader, get both of the threads. And then you can basically put it anywhere you want. Just make sure that the needle is not showing from the other side. You pull the knot through. Clip the thread. And it's gone. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is, if you remember, I used this fine point disappearing ink pen, and it says that it's air and water soluble. So some of the marks have already disappeared, but some are a little bit more stubborn. So I just spray them And I just go around and look for them, spray them. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. I'm going to press it. And there you go, and it's gone. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was a fun little project, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.